What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Pure Positivity Podcast. We love doing this. We're super excited for today. This has been a long time coming, so we're just thankful and great for your grace, Dr. Rob Silver, for sticking with us through the ins and outs and everything that we had to go through to get this podcast going. Even with today, there was still like some things that we had to get through. But you're an amazing teammate.
Well, this is what the third time. Third time's a charm. And I've always felt like the harder you have to work for something, the better it is. So
Hey,
let's do it.
all right, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
because the sound seems like it's working okay now, right?
I mean, so far
Awesome.
so good.
Good, good deal. All right, we'll just say a few prayers to the
Yeah,
sound gods.
definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay.
Well,
hmm
Dr. Rob Silver, we're super excited again, like to have you on today. Can you just
hmm
tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a holistic veterinarian. Many years. I graduated from vet school in 1982. They say I'm one of the OG holistic vets around because I was one of the first to start using holistic tools and blending them in with conventional medicine to practice what I call integrative medicine. And I like integrative medicine because there's many things about conventional medicine I think are absolutely awesome. And especially, when you're dealing with really critical disease, really critical pain, it's good to have the conventional medications. But it's nice to know that you can blend them effectively with herbs and mushrooms and acupuncture and other things to help mitigate the adverse effects of conventional therapies and actually enhance their effectiveness. Now, that's kind of what I do. And I graduated vet school in 82, so I've been doing this for a while. And I've gotten a really big interest in emerging therapies back in the back around 2015, trying to remember the years already, back when CBD just became more legalized than it's still not completely legalized, but more legalized. I became a bit of an expert because I was really fascinated with how well it can help dogs and cats. And that's, and everybody's kind of using it now. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of studies, and we know that it's really real, and we know it's pretty safe. So then I moved on to mushrooms because mushrooms, especially with the COVID pandemic, everybody looking for alternatives to vaccinations or just ways to make them stay healthy so they don't get the disease and die. I started learning a lot more about mushrooms, actually started before that, but really started concentrating it and joined a company, a Canadian company called Real Mushrooms in 2021 and offered to help them formulate a pet line for them, which is I did and what I have done. So we've got a number of great products there that I've designed. And prior to that, I had spent the last 25 years working with another company designing products for veterinary use. And so this was kind of a switch because, I mean, these certainly are good for veterinarians to use, but really my focus, the target, is the pet parent and pet parents, four-legged family members. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. I've written a book called There's a Mushroom for That, which is a really great book. It has explanations about the use of cannabis and mushrooms and diet and herbs for pets. And I go through 7 different diseases of cases of patients I've seen with 7 different diseases and explain kind of what the conventional problem is, how we would treat it if we just were treating it conventionally, and then how we bring in alternative therapies to help improve outcomes and what exactly we would do. And I'm talking about allergies and anxiety and arthritis, bowel disease, digestive disorders, cancer, epilepsy, and wellness. And so it's been doing really well. I didn't really think I was a writer, but people are telling me that they really are liking it. It's well
It's
written.
good. It's really
It's
well. It's really good. We use it. I mean, I haven't read it like from front to back, but I've probably read about every page at some point because we've used it
yeah,
just kind of for
sweet.
educating some of our customers and just showing
So,
them.
yeah, I actually have it on display, actually. So when people come around and see the variety of mushrooms we have and they ask me about it, besides of what's described on the package, I'm like,
I'll just
also, if you
grab
want
it.
to open up the display, yeah, he's going to grab it right now. If you want to open up, you can. I'm like, it's like a Bible of the mushrooms and know, like, which mushroom do you want to learn about? And you can pull it up. And I thought, I love that. And using it like as an
Thank you.
index.
Well, it
Yeah.
really is. It has both a
You
reference
can see it.
material because there's so little out there in terms of reliable information, for reference material.
Yes.
But it also
Very
has
perfect.
but it also has a DIY part of it as well.
Yes.
which is the talking about all those different disease problems and how people can address them. So yeah, it's on Amazon. It's easy to get. And and so now I'm just doing podcasts and writing blogs and going in public and doing book signings and things, just trying to educate pet parents better about what a wonderful category of supplement mushrooms are, and that they should consider using them for their pets because I think they'll really benefit from them. So that's why I'm here.
I love
That's
it. I
an
mean,
idea for the positivity room.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're ever in Arizona and you want to swing through here, we have an area where we can, we can have you in here talking about mushrooms if you're ever down.
That would be very well. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I just love it because mushrooms themselves, it's almost like a natural. There's like nature's multivitamin in a lot of different ways. Uh, it helps in so many different things like immune system, digestive, nervous system regulation. And then you were saying a little bit about CBD, but then you also dabble a little bit with cannabis with pets too, which I think that a lot of people don't understand.
When we
Um,
say cannabis, you mean the cannabis that contains THC as compared to just CBD, and yeah, and that's a problem because because dogs are super sensitive to the adverse effects of THC. In fact, did you know that before we had chemical analytical laboratories to analyze to detect THC in smuggled shipments that were coming from who knows where, that they would feed it to a dog, and if the dog dogs have a very specific reaction to THC.
wow.
Dog had that reaction. They had enough evidence they could convict in court. Dogs don't like getting stoned. I can tell you that. They don't at all. Totally
Oh
rocks
yeah.
their
Yeah.
world, not in a good
Yeah.
way. And so I know from a lot of dogs I've spoken to, they're really happy that now we've got chemical analyzers and they don't have to be fed that stupid weed.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think that it's just one of those things that like maybe you could help explain the difference because I know with CBD itself, there's THC in CBD, full spectrum CBD, and there's a difference between like how it's absorbed in the body, right?
But CBD and THC are both absorbed the same way, in a given extract. And so there's different types of extracts though. There's the full spectrum extract, which has a very small amount of THC based on the law that has defined hemp. That means it has to have less than 0.3% of THC, which is not really very much. That's why hemp doesn't really get you high unless you take an awful lot of it, because then you're taking a lot of THC. There's also something called broad spectrum CBD or broad spectrum hemp extracts, which they have reduced or eliminated the amount of THC. Now, in some ways, they used to do this early on with a very crude um, chemical engineering process that kind of also ruined some of the other ingredients that were in the tincture. And so a lot of people said, oh, the broad spectrums aren't very good because they're not as potent. They don't have the THC. But a good broad spectrum actually has everything in it except the THC. These days, our chemical extraction processes are so effective that it really doesn't the other elements of that extract. So broad spectrum extract can be just as effective, but then you don't run the risk of having a dog being super sensitive to the THC and getting a weird reaction. So there's some pet parents, they want that THC on their dog. Maybe they're users themselves and they know how much it has helped them. Others, they're scared of it. They don't want it. So there actually are two categories, I think, of effective CBD products. One for the people that don't mind the THC, but for a sensitive dog might cause a reaction. And the other for those that don't really want to worry about the THC, or for people that might be drug tested. You want the benefits of CBD, but even that small amount of THC in a broad spectrum CBD product is enough for you to test positive for THC. That's a problem
Wow. I
for a
didn't even
lot
know that.
for a lot of
Yeah.
people that need that that CBD, for mental status, epilepsy, or for pain, or whatever else they might be using it for, digestive issues. But people but there's some companies that sell the full spectrum that they kind of make it sound like the broad spectrum is worthless, and that's just industrial, warfare. That's just companies just trying to knock down other companies they because they their products themselves probably aren't great. But
Sure.
anyway, but the other thing that I've been learning is that CBD and the other elements in cannabis, including THC, but we don't really talk about THC because it is still illegal, although the government is talking about changing its status from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3, which makes it legal, which is good. I hope that's going to happen. That may change some of the things that we're looking at. But I've been looking at how using CBD together with mushrooms together works even better, synergistic. Yeah, and there's some mushrooms they've actually been able to detect cannabinoids in the mushrooms, or they've been able to detect that the mushrooms actually stimulate the endocannabinoid system. And the endocannabinoid system is the system in the body that we had before we ever knew about THC or CBD, and that's the system in our body that helps to keep our bodies stable and pain-free and working. And it turns out that the molecules in that system look just like the molecules in the cannabis plant, which is why the cannabis plant works. And other plants and mushrooms make similar looking molecules that also have an effect on this system of receptors and membrane receptors and molecules that are in our body called the endocannabinoid system. Very cool. It's really cool.
It is really cool. So, with the synergy to get like with mushrooms and CBD or cannabis,
Yeah,
what
cannabis.
what specifically specific synergistic qualities are we talking about? Like benefits?
Well, for one, anti-inflammatory benefits, antioxidant benefits for both mushrooms and antioxidant, anti-inflammatory benefits for both mushrooms and cannabis. But when we're looking at cognitive benefits, mushrooms can have cognitive benefits. And so CBD can have cognitive benefits, and so can mushroom have cognitive benefits. They both work on the nervous system. We also look at the immune system, and CBD can help to improve immune system function just as mushrooms can, or to reduce some inflammation. So, in particular, I've been seeing synergies when we're looking at things like lion's mane, which is a mushroom that affects the brain primarily, also affects the digestive system, and um, and we've been finding that it can help to calm and relax, but it also can help in humans who have dementia or memory issues. And so when we see older dogs, we'll get this sundowners syndrome, where they'll have trouble finding the dog door or won't know where their food bowl is. They get confused because it's a form of geriatric senility. We're finding that lion's mane and other mushrooms can help with that. Yeah, CBD can help some as well, depending. Maybe not the THC because of the effect that THC has on memory, um, but the
Sure.
CBD can. For instance, I have a calming mushroom formula which uses lion's mane and reishi plus a bunch of calming herbs and things like that. And we've found, and it's called Relax Mushroom Chews from Real Mushrooms. And I found when we combine that with a CBD product, any CBD product, I have my own branded CBD product that has CBD and CBG and is broad spectrum, so there is no THC in it. And when we use that together, we can get good enough relaxation that many times dogs don't need tranquilizers to go on planes or don't need tranquilizers to go to the groomers or to go to the vets. And it doesn't really sedate them. It's just kind of a chill pill, but and we've been looking at those kinds of synergies between mushrooms and between cannabis and finding that there really are quite a few places where the two work together better than either of them work alone.
I
That's
think
awesome.
that's pretty factual. We've just witnessed it with we have a 8-year-old German Shepherd that we recently took on rehabbing a little with her gut and has high anxiety. And
Mm,
at night we ended up starting try the reishi at night, and it was we you have the bulk bag, so we do a little bit and add it into her food, and she has CBD because of all of her arthritis and everything too, and she just passed out. And I'm like, I think it was we called it
Yeah.
night, like relaxed reishi or something.
Yeah.
Because that's how I remember. That's the night one.
Well, a lot of people, who have sleeping difficulties. I mean, people do, and certainly there's a lot of anxiety these days in the news as well. Will take reishi before bed
Is there
at the
something?
sleep aid.
Is there a way that you like to take it, like in the raw form, or would you prefer it more
It
as a
doesn't taste very
capsule?
good.
Because we did sprinkle it on stuff, and it was a lot. I don't know if we did a lot or not.
Spongy.
Well, well, when we talk about mushroom quality, one thing we want to do is we want the mushroom that we take to very much resemble the mushroom that's growing. And reishi, of all the mushrooms, has a really high content of a type of molecule called a terpene. We have terpenes in cannabis as well. In fact, terpenes in cannabis are what you can kind of, smells like good stuff. That's what the terpenes do. They've got a lot of aroma. They also affect the high that you get and the effectiveness of the cannabis. Well, likewise, mushrooms also have these terpenes. They cross the blood-brain barrier, and they bind to membrane receptors in the brain, just like the cannabis terpenes do. So these terpenes in reishi has the largest number of terpenes of any mushroom. And the terpenes and these large terpenes that are in reishi are very, very bitter. So although the bitterness is hard to take, it does tell us that there is quality in that, because you could also taste a reishi that might not be a real reishi mushroom. Some companies are actually growing the mycelium from the reishi on grain, and the reishi's never ever even growing on wood, which is what it's supposed to grow on. So it doesn't develop these bitter terpenes. So those may be the mushrooms that you see reishi in mushroom coffee, and like you can't tell it's bitter at all. So, for myself, I originally had trouble taking that bitter reishi. So, but I've started with just a little bit at a time, because we have in our mouth bitter receptors. That's how we know it's bitter on our tongue. But we actually have those same receptors throughout our body. They're not really tasting, but when the bitter taste of the terpene from the reishi binds to these receptors in our body, it causes things to happen, like reduce inflammation, antioxidant function, stimulates serotonin, or something along those lines, or actually can stabilize mast cell membranes so they don't release antihistamines. So reishi actually has antihistamine-like properties because of those very bitter terpenes. And chaga, which is another, not really a mushroom, but is another, we call it a mushroom, also has a lot of these terpenes and also is bitter. And chaga also has that same antihistaminic effect. So I take it as a capsule, because I take large amounts of it for my health, because I'm older and I want to stay older. I want to keep getting older, you know. But I also will take a tea, like at night. I take some powdered lion's mane, like maybe 2 scoops of powdered lion mane, and maybe 3/4 of a scoop of the reishi, you know, and then I put licorice root in there, which is a good anti-inflammatory, but it's also very, very sweet. And then I put ginger root in there, and ginger root seems to tame the bitterness of the reishi, and so I drink it before bed because the lion's mane and the reishi are very calming.
Yeah.
It helps me sleep better. Although I sleep pretty good anyway. I mean, I didn't used to, but now I'm sleeping real well. So
But you're a very healthy looking guy. Can you just tell everybody how old you are?
I want to. I don't want. Well, okay.
It's mind blowing. It's a compliment.
It's
I
a
swear.
great-
It's
I know.
like
I know. I just turned 77
yeah,
Wow.
that's
last
incredible.
month. Yeah. It is
Perfect.
incredible.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's
Thank you. It
awesome.
sneaks up on you. I don't really. I still feel like I'm 55.
Well, you don't look much older than that, if anything. So you really, you can tell the mushrooms are doing something.
Yeah, what you put in comes out.
They are. I'm taking a lot of them, and and reishi is considered the mushroom of immortality, but so is lion's mane. Lion's mane contains an antioxidant that's unique to mushrooms called ergothioneine. We find it in its largest amount in the oyster mushrooms and the golden oyster mushroom, and Real Mushrooms grows the golden oyster mushroom for its ergothioneine lion's mane, one of the reasons lion's mane has been so good with memory and cognition and calming is because it also contains this ergothioneine. The ergothioneine has been shown in multiple studies in short-lived animals because it humans live too long to really do studies, and so do dogs. But like in worms and in mice and in fruit flies, the lion's mane ergothioneine has been found to be a longevity vitamin. So yeah, so I mean, the mushrooms really do have a benefit for longevity, and maybe I mean, I think some of it is genetic. My mom was young looking, you know. I'm small. I think small people also don't age quite so. Whatever, you know. Anyway, thank you.
I think that smaller people, our bodies are just more efficient. You know, it's just like you just not as much. You don't have to pump as much blood to the extremities, etc. I don't know.
hmm Lower center of gravity, all the
Yeah,
above. Yeah.
for sure. Well, you honestly, I think are the one that inspired us to because we take the real mushrooms every day now. We do the cordyceps, lion's mane, reishi, and chaga every day,
Hmm.
and I will say like it's noticeable the differences like when you because we went we ran out for a little bit and we were like oh crap we need to get some more and
Especially cordyceps. I was surprised how much energy naturally like that. I was like,
yeah
it was really neat.
and cordyceps are one of those like mushrooms when you like look into the science and the story behind it it's like
They're super
super creepy.
cool.
Cordyceps is probably my favorite mushroom. It's really unique because it contains this molecule called cordycepin. And the cordycepin looks just like a nucleoside. Now, nucleosides are the molecules that make up DNA. So when cells get broken down and digested, so does the DNA, and then fragments of the DNA go floating around the body. And these fragments of DNA actually work as membrane signalers. They'll signal membranes to do a variety of different tasks in the body. Well, cordycepin looks like the adenosine, the nucleoside molecule from DNA, but it has a little change in its structure. So it can substitute for adenosine, but it will block whatever's happening. So let's say adenosine is needed by a pathogenic virus to create a disease because it takes the adenosine to build its DNA. Instead, it gets the cordyceps, and the cordyceps blocks it. So that's one reason why cordyceps can have an antiviral activity because it looks like something that's part of DNA. And it has and that same cordycepin gets transformed to the body and also winds up taking on phosphorus molecules, which makes it be the same as what we call ATP, adenosine triphosphate, is the energy molecule in the body. That's how our mitochondria, when we make energy, we create ATP. Cordycepin creates CTP, cordycepin triphosphate, which is just as good as adenosine triphosphate in creating energy. I mean, a lot. I don't want to do too much chemistry here,
I like
but
it.
That's cool. Yeah.
it is just really cool. And you know, I'll tell you a story about cordyceps. I like my stories.
Yeah.
The reason is cordyceps also is reputed to have aphrodisiac properties. And the reason is because the yak herders in Tibet would take their yak up to the high plains in the springtime when the tundra was softening so they could graze on the spring grass. Well, coming up from the spring grass were the little bits of cordyceps mushroom coming up from the soil in the springtime. So the yak herds would graze not just on the grass, but on the cordyceps mushroom. And shortly after grazing, the yak herders would watch them start breeding. And, and, the, and then the herds of yaks that were grazing on the high plateaus also had larger litters. So so cordycepin was reputed to help with fertility and to help with male
Yeah.
male
Oh,
activity.
Yeah.
And
oh nice.
so, well, and later on, when they were able to measure things, they found that yes, taking cordycepin increases testosterone.
Oh
And
neat.
taking cordycepin also increases 17 beta estradiol, the good estrogen in the body.
Wow.
So
I
yeah,
didn't know that.
it's cool how how folklore is really, it's based in reality,
Hmm.
Yeah.
some kind of reality. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I know that, like, I mean, if once the word gets out that cordyceps can boost testosterone, I mean, geez, that's what like every male in the world is dealing with right now. It seems to be,
Very
Yeah,
true.
on TikTok for sure.
yeah,
but,
I don't know what it is. I didn't know that there was actually anything natural that you could do other than like just sleep better,
well,
move, exercise,
Yeah.
eat better. That's pretty
well,
much all I
well,
know.
those are good things, but there are some things like the amino acid arginine, for instance, is very helpful. Cordyceps can be helpful, and so forth.
Hmm.
Yeah, cordyceps. The cordyceps that they will dig up from the high plains, in Tibet, they take it to market because this was the original cordyceps aphrodisiac. They will fetch $15,000 a kilogram for those mushrooms. Yeah,
Wow.
because of that aphrodisiac property. So many families indigenous families in Tibet, Nepal, and Bhutan, for a living, what they do is they go up to the high plains and they collect these mushrooms and then sell them at market.
That's what a job.
Yeah, these days the real mushrooms, we grow cordyceps, but we grow it on rice. So and then we remove we cut the cordyceps off at the rice, so there's actually no grain in our product.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
Which
but
is
we're
like
but we're using rice to grow it.
and that's one thing that like I really want to touch on here because with real mushrooms in general, just what you guys do, to separate yourself from the rest as far as like quality, the way that you grow things, confusion regarding like being, grown in China versus being grown in North America, and then just the fruiting body versus mycelium question. Like most people don't even know where to start.
Well, let me get started then.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, mushrooms have a life cycle. And it starts with the spore, which is like a seed that the mushroom is that's what the mushroom creates. The mushroom's whole purpose in life is to create the spores. But it's a place where they can be bred, and also a place that can protect them while they're developing. And it's also a place because mushrooms are up on a stalk, or they're up on a tree. So when it releases the spores, the wind carries them and disseminates them. So it's survival of the species that way. Or an animal might eat them. The spores are resistant to digestion. So when the animal poops the spores out, and the mushrooms spread. So the spores germinate into what's called mycelium, and the mycelium is the part of the mushrooms of the fungal life cycle where the mycelium grows into the substrate, whatever is appropriate: wood, dead or dying wood, manure, compost, those sorts of things. And mushrooms are very specific. Mushrooms that grow on wood will grow on compost. And so and when they do try to grow mushrooms on something that's not its natural substrate, like we were talking about reishi, when they grow reishi on rice, it's not nearly as potent. It doesn't have those terpenes in it. When you grow reishi on wood chips, it's a little bit stronger, but reishi really wants to grow on actual logs. And wants to grow on logs that are in contact with the soil, so the reishi mycelium can grow through the log and grow into the soil. So the mycelium is very powerful, and it's really what is going to save our world as far as recycling, because the mycelium creates these really strong enzymes that can digest almost anything. I mean, they've grown mushrooms on dirty baby diapers, and it's consumed the dirty baby diapers, and you could actually eat the mushrooms. They're using mushrooms at Chernobyl because it can consume, nuclear waste. So mushrooms really, the mycelium from the mushrooms is really quite amazing. So from there, the mycelium then will, when environmental conditions are correct, gets cooler, gets moister, the mycelium will organize itself into a mushroom. The mushroom is really just organized mycelium. That's why when you cut into it, it looks kind of white because that's the mycelium. And it grows up and then it creates the spores, and then the cycle repeats itself. So the mycelium has very, very strong biological metabolites that have good biological activity, and the mushroom does as well. But some companies, because it can take up to 6 months when you're growing the mycelium on the substrate, like those, like reishi growing on stumps, it can take upwards 6 months for the mushroom to grow large enough to harvest it. Can get costly for companies. And so many companies in North America, where labor costs are higher as compared to Asia, will grow their mushrooms on wood chips. And then before they actually develop mushrooms, the mycelium grows on these wood chips. They will take that myceliated, I'm sorry, the mycelium would grow on grain. And once the mycelium grows on grain to a certain extent, we take the grain on the mycelium and we use that to inoculate wood or whatever we want the mushroom to actually grow on. Well, instead of letting that happen, these companies will let a few mushrooms come up out of the grain, but they're not as strong as if they're growing on wood. And they dry the whole thing, they powder it, and then they sell it as a mushroom. And it's not. It's a fungal product. It has mycelium in it, not a lot, maybe 15 or 20% mycelium, which has potency, and it also has fermented grain, but it also has maybe 30% unfermented grain in it, just cereal grain. Who wants to feed their animal that? Oh, and the potency is not the same. It's a different kind of product. It's not a mushroom product. It's more what we call a postbiotic product. It's like eating tempeh. It's like eating fermented grain. There is a biological value to that, but mushroom. Real mushrooms calls themselves real mushrooms because that's what they grow, are the real mushrooms. Started 45 years ago. He went to he recognized the value of medicinal mushrooms. He went to the country in the world that is the expert in growing medicinal mushrooms. What country is that? China. China's been growing medicinal mushrooms for thousands of years, and they know how to cultivate them. So our founder went, and each species of mushroom, it's like a family, generationally, from generation to generation, grows those mushrooms and cultivates them in these huge shade houses in China. And they grow the mushrooms in the exact area in China where those mushrooms grow. So they are in the right place. So they do have increased potency and increased quality because they're growing where they're supposed to grow, and they're growing on the materials they're supposed to grow. And our company introduced USDA organic growing standards to the Chinese mushroom industry. And the Chinese mushroom, it's very supportive. They're farmers, but they're highly respected in Chinese culture, in Asian culture in general, because mushrooms are a major part of Asian cuisine. And a lot of epidemiological studies they've done on people who eat mushrooms are done either in Asia or Eastern Europe. And you talked earlier about how you didn't really need to take very many mushrooms at a time to get a health benefit. They found that if humans eat 12 grams of mushrooms a couple times a week, that's less than an ounce of mushrooms. That's maybe like one mushroom or half a mushroom a day, 2 days a week. They can see a significant reduction in death from any cause. And if they have cognitive issues, they'll also see improvements in cognitive health. So it doesn't take a lot to include mushrooms, but they are not drugs. They are foods. They really are superfoods. And so they need to be taken on a daily basis. You don't have to take tons and tons of them. A little bit every day. And, if you got some kind of illness, you might want to take more. Because the more you take, the better they work for serious problems. But for daily health and daily wellness, you don't need much. And so that's the whole mycelium on grain, and how much to use. And then we think we know mushrooms because we eat them. But there's so many stages in the cultivation and in the extraction process for mushrooms to make them into consumable medicines. There's all these points along the trail that we could wind up losing the quality of our product. And so what we do is we have an analytical laboratory. We're a Canadian company. We have an analytical laboratory in British Columbia where we're based. And so we do extensive testing of every mushroom extract that comes in to ensure that it meets our standards and that it has the same potency from one production batch to another production batch. And so So that's one reason why practitioners are really happy to use our products, because they're very consistent with their potency. They know that a batch of mushroom products they buy this month will have the same potency as a batch of mushroom products they buy next month. That's very important if you're using them medicinally in patients who have issues. To be sure you have that consistency of potency as well. And so we test them for potency. We even have a little growing. We even grow different strains in our laboratory in Canada to find out which strains have the most potency. So we use those, which are the most efficient to grow. So there's a real science to it, and the mushroom industry, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and so there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of potential loss, and you really need to know what you're doing, and you get rewarded by creating a quality product, because consumers are looking for that, practitioners are looking for that, and the results speak for themselves when you're taking something that is of quality. I think you have found that yourself with your own lives and your own health, and maybe your pet's health as well.
Yeah, yeah,
That's it.
for sure. And it definitely we have our own products that we make, and we use real mushrooms in our products. And
Yeah.
there's a real reason why, and you guys definitely stand out when you start looking into sourcing, when you start looking into quality, start looking into third party testing. I mean, it's everything that you guys do is above and beyond. So I just think that's really something that stands out in the industry, because it's hard to find any consistency really,
Yeah.
in any
Hmm.
level of the world right now. Not
Yeah.
trying to go that deep on things, but we appreciate it when we find it.
Hmm.
I mentioned to you that I am traveling down to Phoenix, where close to where you guys are, shortly in May, to attend this conference, the National Animal Supplement Council. Well, the National Animal Supplement Council actually works with the FDA to share with companies how they can be compliant with FDA regulations and with FDA quality standards. And so, if you join this group, you then agree to have them send third-party auditors to your manufacturing facilities to inspect them to ensure that they meet FDA CGMP manufacturing standards. And labels all have the same template as far as what you put on the label, what you can disclose, what language you can use, what medical claims you can't use. I mean, you can't use any medical claims on labels. And so I'm going back down there. I go every year to this group in order to, once you've passed the audit of your manufacturing facilities and you got the language correct on your labels and everything else, your advertising is all within, the FDA agreed upon language constraints, you then can display on your label the NASC seal. Let me see if I've got,
Yeah, I've
I
seen
don't know if
that.
I've got one that's large enough for you guys to see, but yeah, there
Yeah.
you,
Yep.
there you go, this right
Yeah, in
here.
the corner there.
And that's one of the products you formulated, correct? One of the
Yeah, this is turkey tail. And we got three new products, in fact. With what we've done is we've taken like a single mushroom, like turkey tail or lion's mane, and we've blended it with krill meal. Krill meal are these little plankton, zooplankton, that look like little miniature shrimp that whales eat. And so they're very rich in marine lipids like EPA and DHA. They've got good levels of protein, but they also contain lipids and choline and a great antioxidant, and they taste great. So they actually enhance the effectiveness of the mushroom. This is for turkey tail, and if we're using turkey tail for serious problems, we've got to get a lot in there. And this allows you to do that, but it also gives you the fish oil, which has benefits for almost every condition. So we've got the turkey tail and we've got the lion's mane, which is with the fish oil, because we know we use fish oil is really good for a lot of brain things. The DHA in fish oil is great for puppies, for training. Well, so is the lion's mane. And I'm now recommending that people think about starting their puppies and kittens right off the bat, as soon as they adopt them, with mushrooms, even before they get them vaccinated, because the
Okay.
mush because the mushroom beta glucans will improve the body's ability to take that vaccine and create a long-standing protection and reduce any kind of immune system side effects. Likewise, we're hearing so much about the microbiome. The microbiome is really important. It's all the collection of all the microorganisms in your bowel and also other parts of your body. But the microbiome really plays a big role in allergies and all kinds of diseases. And the place to get the microbiome healthy is with the puppy and kitten when you first bring them home, when they're just weaned. You don't want to start them on that crappy kibble. You want to start them on some good quality food. You want to get some good probiotics in there, to help build a healthy microbiome. And so mushrooms themselves are known to be very positive in terms of promoting the health of the microbiome. So I'm also seeing these as being something good to consider right away. And I don't believe in vaccinating right away unless you're in an environment where there's a lot of risk of these contagious disease. In that case, I think vaccinations are good when you've got a lot of risk of contagious disease. But if you've got the time, I think it's worthwhile waiting to not vaccinate your puppy or kitten until they're at least 3 or 4 months of age. When the puppy nurses on the mama, that they didn't nurse, and this may not be true, but when the puppy or kitten nurses on the mama, the colostrum brings with it antibodies from the mother that she's gotten from her vaccinations that will protect the puppy or kitten till they're about 3 months of age. So, so if you vaccinate them, those antibodies that are in there against those diseases kind of consume the vaccine. They don't really do that much. So you want to wait till they're about 3 months age, 3 months or 4 months, unless they were strays, the mother abandoned them, they never got to nurse, in which case you got to try to build their protection up as best you can. And I would do that with colostrum and mushrooms first, and fresh food, not as ultra processed kibble, and add those mushrooms in there at that time as well. I think that could, I think things like allergies, which are so awful. I mean, people are just having, they're almost like life threatening. They're definitely life altering. And we're finding that we can alter the microbiome. We can sometimes alter allergies. I've been learning about these microbiome fecal transfers, where you take a healthy dog stool and you do a rectal enema and the dog that you're transferring the feces to. And some of these dogs actually have converted um, to not being allergic anymore with these fecal transplants. And I've heard of some dogs with epilepsy. I'm really fascinated. I've always been, as a veterinarian, I've always been looking for what is that magic bullet? What is the root of a problem that if we can dig that root out, we can dig that problem out instead of just treating the branches and the symptoms like we do so much with allergies, even with supplements and with the drugs that we use, the steroids and the Apoquel, the Cytopoint. And there's some new drugs coming down the road now too, just like Apoquel and Cytopoint. Now, if the other companies want to get in on the
Sure.
on the money. So anyway, I'm babbling here.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
you're good.
no.
I guess like the way that I see things is like, and this is just you tell me if this is accurate, but when I see like allergic reactions, histamines, things like that in the body, that's just feedback. So it's like, if you just pay attention to that and just be like, oh, well, maybe that's a little bit too much of that or too little or too whatever, that's where I kind of look at it instead of trying to cure things. It's like, I don't know. But at the same time, it's a lot of it. We're just putting band-aids on things. Whereas like what you're talking about is like actually getting to the root of it, which is
Well,
that's where it's at.
and starting them at the very beginning.
Yeah.
That really is the key, and that's a message that we get to vet
Yeah.
because that's where
Yeah.
because people adopt that pup your kitten. The first thing they do is they go to a vet. Not against vets. Vets are great. I'm one of them, but they tend to lean too heavily on this whole like get those vaccinations in there right away. I know it's a good profit center for the veterinarian. They don't pay a lot for it. The vaccinations gets the puppy parent in there so they can hopefully be examined and be taught good things that they need to know about behavior and feeding and things like that. Too often it winds up being a marketing session for different drugs and supplements and different foods that the vet carries. And, I'd like to see some more. And there's nothing against vets doing that, but for pet parents that are looking for more, you need to find a veterinarian who's a little more like, but I want to go out and make most veterinarians more aware. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, well,
You
and
know,
that's one of the things that we were talking about that this morning. You know, before we were coming on here today, because we've had a couple of veterinarians on our show, but like it's really hard to find veterinarians who want to come on our show, not because just because they a lot of them are commercial is what I'm getting at. Like most of them are out there are not really just they're not ready to come on and share their knowledge because they don't not I don't for whatever reason. And again, I'm not judging them like you're saying. Like I'm not against them.
yeah.
They have reasons for what they do. But I do feel like there's a large amount of people out here who are looking towards the veterinarians to trust them, and there's a big problem with that communication back and forth. And what we would love to be able to do is like veterinarians like yourself who decided like, hey, I'm going to go down a different path, and it's not going to be the easy path because it's not the one that everybody chooses. But how can we get more veterinarians to start to take that seriously and start to and go down the holistic path? I don't know.
More are actually. More are actually. You know, I'm finding more and more young like, vet students. Like oftentimes, I get asked by holistic clubs to go speak at to holistic vet schools to their holistic club, and more seem like they want to learn holistic medicine. Some of them even don't want to conventional medicine; they just want to do alternative medicine. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to learn both. I
Yeah.
think you need to know what you're rejecting. And, what if you come in, and you need to be able to diagnose? I mean, that's important. And just say, maybe this does need a strong drug,
Yeah.
and some things do. But, yeah, there is a growing group of veterinarians. I'm really proud of, and many of them are doing their own courses, and they've got their own platforms. And I'm sure many of them would love to come meet with you. And maybe we can talk privately. I can give you the lists or some names of people that would like to, come and talk about themselves, but, but also share that knowledge because some of them are really, I think they're a great bunch and they're doing good things. And there are vets out there for those, for pet parents that are looking for them. And there aren't always veterinarians locally, but God bless now we've got virtual, and there's so much you could do virtually, that like for instance, behavior. I'm working with a great behavior group in California. Well, they can do it anywhere. It doesn't just have to be people locally. So, I think things are changing for the better in the veterinary health, in the pet health community, quite frankly. But but many vets are rising to the occasion. Many vets are very much interested in providing what their clients want.
Yeah.
So there are those who are doing that. But then you have the corporate practices, where you have some large syndicate that owns the practice and then has the veterinarians work in it, and they give them quotas. They have, and so and the private independent vet is a vanishing breed, and but that is what people should look for is that independent vet who thinks for themselves, maybe doesn't have all the bells and whistles, maybe doesn't have enough veterinarians there that you could just snap your finger and they're going to let you, you can get an appointment. But but it's worthwhile looking around and finding them because I think they're out there, and I'm out there,
Yeah.
Yep.
and
Yeah. No, I think you
yeah.
are right with there
Mhm.
is we can feel the movement happening for sure. It's slow, but it's happening and people are, waking up to it, including the veterinarians. And
Yeah, yeah.
we're all about helping, wherever we can. We
Hmm.
just feel like it seems to be a road that is less traveled for some reason. Maybe because it's like they come out of school, they have a lot of debt, they have a lot of things, responsibilities. And so what I was hoping like someday, I guess, would be like some of these things are more taught in their traditional schools, and that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it. But
Right.
we are getting some electives, and there are some professors who are getting smarter about things, as far as doing vaccine titers and maybe not hewing so rigidly to the process, to the ultra processed kibble foods, that are coming from these
Right.
big boxes, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and it all starts with education, like you said
Well, it
a
does.
lot, and educating the client themselves, because one thing for sure that we've run into many, many times over and over again is just the simple fact that a lot of people don't even know that they have a choice in whether or not their dog gets vaccinated.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and I'm not against vaccinations. I'm just against being moderate. I think we do too. I think we for the most part we do too many. I think some individuals and some environments they're in, too many is good, but for most it isn't. You know. And so you need to treat each animal individually based on its biochemical individuality, what environment it's in, the pet parent's budget. You know, I mean, not every pet parent can make those kinds of diets. You know, some of those things are being recommended. Oh my gosh, all these different things. I have a diet that I teach. It's way simple. I'm a little almost embarrassed, you know, as complicated as the diets are these days. A live platform on my own website. Once a month, I do like an hour and a half live. And it's actually going to be this week, Thursday night.
Okay.
People can sign up. They can go to my website, wellpetdispensary.com. I'll give you all that information. It's every fourth Thursday of each month. And right now I've been teaching about nutrition and diets. And one of the things I've been doing is I've got some affiliate diets on my website that I think are all decent. Some are cooked, some are raw, you know, a couple different choices there. But now this next one, I'm going to talk more about how you can create your own meal. But my recipes for homemade food are like way simple because
Yeah.
you know it's got to get done. You know,
Right.
it's still going to be a hell of a lot better than kibble. You know,
Right.
you know, raw ground turkey, but I buy it in the chubs. You know, it's not this real exotic stuff. You know, and I buy frozen broccoli. You know, and I rarely give any carbohydrates. I've got a chubby lab. It's always always a fight to keep his waistline down. So that's we call that Doc Rob Live. I do about maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes of teaching, and then we have questions and answers for however long. I tell them I'm going to stay there till all the questions are answered. I'm surprised how people will stay. I mean, an hour and a half, they're all still there. All 35 people are just
Wow.
waiting for more jams. I'm like, well, it's getting to be
Yeah.
my dinner time now. You know,
That's
but
awesome, though. I didn't even. That's really great. So people out there,
yeah,
if you're following along, they can find you on there this week, even.
yeah, they can. I'm not so good with social media. That's one thing I need to do better. But we do have an Instagram page, and we do have a YouTube page. I think we've got Facebook too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I like your philosophy there too, because I think that a lot of the things that we do is to try to make things so simple that you'll do it every day, and
Yeah.
then you can out consistency it.
Well, when I was in practice, I would take my first appointment with a client would be an hour. If it was a cancer consult, it would be an hour and a half. And one of the things I would do is I would teach them how to do a homemade diet because back when I started, we didn't have these raw diets at food stores. All we had was a dry kibble. And in fact, it got known enough that I was doing that. Instinct, that pet food company, Instinct, came out because I actually had a freezer in my office where I kept because Instinct at that time was like the only one. I kept the Instinct frozen food there, and they came out and actually hired me to work with them, and not full time, but to do some work with them, which I did for a little bit of time.
Wow, that's really
Yes,
cool.
yeah. So that's kind of what I'm going to be teaching. That same thing and that was back in '78, 75, something like that. That was, like I say, I'm OG. I go way back.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, I
trailblazer
mean, it's
then
really
for
it's
food, fresh food.
it really
I
is. I mean,
mean,
because we've been doing it for just a little bit of time now, and to think about even in the modern day that we're in, to start from which it's a lot of fear. There's a lot of there's a lot of like when you start to do some of this stuff because there's a lot of when you start looking online for the truth, it's hard to find. Let's put it that way.
Foodborne pathogens, that's a big fear. You know, inadequate nutrition, I guess, and all of those things. And and homemade food's not necessarily cheaper. It's not necessarily easier. It's not going to take you less time,
mm-mm.
but the
Yeah.
reward is huge. I mean, just watching, just when I mean, if I prepare it every day at the same time for Ollie, my lab, and we also do that for the cats. And just having them sit there and watch you, and get
Yeah.
all excited, and then it's all done, it's ready to put down. They're like, oh
Yep.
Labs do this funny little little dance with their front feet before you get fed. He's so cute
That's
when he does that.
Aw.
that's awesome, man. We do talk a lot about how you just said it, where it's not, the benefits are like outside of just feeding our dog, and so we've just noticed with our own story, our feeding our pets actually turned into something that it rolled over, pardon the pun, into our own lives, and we got healthier because of that specific loop that they're giving. It's a constant loop that when you give to them, they're giving back, and it just continues to blossom and compound. And it's just, that's the thing that we would love to get out there more. That, like, it's not just about feeding your pet better. It's like that's just the beginning of like everything getting better. Have you ever seen anything like that with any of your customers,
Well, clients, you mean? Because
clients, rather? As soon as I
in
said
terms of
it,
what in terms of what I'm in practice, yes. In fact, try to imagine you're teaching someone how to prepare a healthy meal for their pet. They don't know how to cook. They've never cooked for themselves. Everything they've gotten is fast foods or packaged, and that's all they know. And more and more people aren't learning the art of cooking. Does force the individual, and if only for your pet. I mean, get healthy for your pet. It's kind of like on the airplane. When they say, well, when that oxygen mask comes down, put it on yourself first before you put it on your child. So really, you need to feed yourself well in order to know how well you can feed your pet. So really, the whole family should get well. And they say that one of the things that is a hallmark of today's marketing for pets is that pets have become a part of our family. As people are more empty nesting, as more couples are choosing not to have children till later, but they're having pets, they really are our four-legged family members. They're not like out in the barnyard anymore. They're
yeah,
they're definitely a part of our house, a part of our family. And veterinarians, I guess, we're your four-legged pediatrician, eh? You know,
yeah, yeah.
we're your four-legged, whatever, four-legged doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That, I mean, the human animal bond is, it's science. It's definitely there, and
Incredible.
they have taught me more things personally than most humans could ever teach. So they're special. That's why we do this.
Excited. Tell me a little bit about your new store. It's open for business now,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
shut.
We're in the positivity room right now. This is part of it,
Okay.
and we call it this is like a section of it where we have some couches here and a
Hmm.
TV where we can sit down. We can watch documentaries. We can
Nice.
watch something funny. You can talk and just feel open. It's like a space where people can actually just come in, leave the world outside the doors. There's calming music. It's a calm ambiance, and we've noticed that people don't have any problems doing that. They come in and they just hang out. They just
Mm.
stay, and they just
We've heard so many cool, I mean, different stories, like good and bad, but it's all nice to be a safe space for these people to unleash their stories about their previous pets or what they've gone through. And people, for some reason, just want to come in and tell us everything. And
wish we
I love,
it's
people love
it's been
talking about
awesome.
their critters, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and especially with like a
yeah,
no, there's no judgment, there's no guilt,
yeah,
no
Yeah.
shame. Whatever you did, whatever you have done, whatever you are doing, like that's not for us to say that it's wrong or
yeah.
right or whatever. That's all subjective. And so we're able to be an ear for people
We have
and pets.
resources. Yeah, we have we're like almost like a resource center, but with options for them, still.
Nice.
Nice.
And we like to meet them where they're at and not
Yep.
feel like,
It's pretty cool because
yeah,
there's a lot of really cool things that just kind of just keep unfolding. We have a pretty transient community out here. It's very snowbirdy vacation. A lot of people come here, live here part time of the year, so we're having an effect on a lot of people that are like taking this stuff and then going back home.
right,
Which is pretty awesome.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, this has been a really cool conversation. So
Thank you.
let's go ahead and wrap this up. But if you can, you just want to share where people could find you
Mhm.
out there, where you're going to be, what you're up to lately.
Well, I'm not traveling as much this year, so I'm mostly going to be at home in front of my computer. Every month, Real Mushrooms does a Doc Rob live event, which is Thursday. No, today's Tuesday, which will be which was last Thursday night because I'm doing my Doc Rob live this Thursday night. So the third Thursday of each month, I do one for real mushrooms, and everyone's welcome to come join that. Then the fourth Thursday of each month, I do one for my own website. My website is called wellpetdispensary.com. Send you the link. And then on the landing page of the website, we have information about signing up and registering for that event. Then, like I said, it'll be Thursday night of this week. We're going to talk about nutrition, talk about some essential oils, get some diet formulation, homemade diet formulation, and we'll see how it goes.
That's awesome.
Great. Yeah,
thanks
definitely share that.
Where's his book go? I
Right.
guess
Oh,
the,
right
And then,
here.
and then there's my book, which I think is worthwhile getting, and
Right.
and
Yes.
and I'll give you the Amazon link for that as well. And then,
cool.
Okay.
and then you can post that, as they say, like down below in the comments.
Yes. Yes. We'll
Right
do that
on,
for
man.
sure.
Well, we
Yeah.
we had a lot of fun having you on today, and this is we'd love to
Lovely.
have you on again in the future. And
Yeah.
Please, would love
Yeah.
to.
well, you have a good rest of your day, sir.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks to both of you, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.